We're engaging in
Brian.
agricultural strip mining.
Restart? Sorry, I hadn't had the camera set up yet.
Oh.
Sorry about that.
3, 2, 2.
Go.
All right. Malthusian catastrophe in the making. There's not enough soil. We're engaging in agricultural strip mining. Every year, we need more and more food, but we are able to take less and less out of it by the practices we use, slowly damaging what we currently have. We're turning the farmable land to desert by poisoning the microbiology with fertilizers. The little invisible creatures that live in the soil, they don't like petro-based chemicals, it kills them. And then from there, we start turning everything into desert, more and more dust. There's not enough water. Agriculture is responsible for 87% of the total water used globally. It takes over 500 gallons of water to produce 1 pound of rice. You ever seen those films, just the flooded fields of rice? I never even thought how much water it takes to flood those fields. And now they've taken to flooding them with salinized water, which is destroying the ability to grow. So now they have to use genetically engineered rice, which is a whole other story. But they have to use genetically engineered rice just to survive the salt content of their own soil now. There's billions more of us on the way. Some estimates say as many as 9 billion within the next 20 years. There won't be enough water. There won't be enough soil. We have to use what we have more efficiently. The main problem is agriculture. This is a map of soil degradation. The tan areas are where the soil is stable, and everything else is where there is damage. Red being severely damaged, and grays are nothing. It's already desert. And so as you can see, basically everywhere there's people, we're destroying the soil quite impressively. And there's no real way to farm commercial crops in Canada and Siberia. So what to do there. The coming crisis. We are headed towards a Malthusian catastrophe. As a people, if we do not address the threat, water supplies will be at critical levels in the next 30 years. Soil erosion is happening at a rate that outpaces even the most optimistic soil creation estimates, leading to the desertification of the world's farm belt. All right, what is a Malthusian catastrophe? Thomas Malthus was an economist who lived in the 17 and 1800s. About 200 years ago, he had the foresight to see that Earth could not support exponential population growth. He did a lot of calculations, and he figured out any population in the world, humans, rats, rabbits, if you let them, they'll just double in population, double in population, double in population until they reach a tipping point where their environment can no longer support them. And all of a sudden, catastrophe, a Malthusian catastrophe. More than half the population on average will die and starve to death, basically, when they can't provide enough food. And so he put forth the idea that this would eventually happen even to us, that we had no way out of this. Other people have such worries. The Dalai Lama says, the threat of nuclear weapons and man's ability to destroy the environment are really alarming, and yet there are other almost imperceptible changes. I am thinking of the exhaustion of our natural resources, and especially soil erosion. And these things are perhaps more dangerous still, because once we begin to feel their repercussions, it will be too late. Thomas Fuller has once said, we never know the worth of water till the well is dry. Thomas Malthus himself says, I say that the power of population is indefinitely greater than the power in the earth to produce subsistence for man. Population, when unchecked, increases in a geometric ratio. All right, so how do we
geometric ratio?
It means it goes up and up, whereas some things will slowly move upwards. Other things that go geometric, you ever seen a chart where it starts going and it takes off like crazy? That's geometric. So we'll keep producing more and more and more and more. Like in the 60s, there was only 3 million of us, or 3 billion of us rather. Now we've doubled that. So while our need for food goes up faster and faster, the need for the ability to create food will dwindle. And he figured this out even before we realized that we can destroy the soil. So that was just figuring out we couldn't expand that fast. He didn't even conceive that we'd start losing what we already have, which we are quite swimmingly. But there's a solution: hydroponics and aquaponics. Hydroponics is the act of growing a plant without soil. Plants receive all their basic needs from the controlled application of nutrient-enriched water.
Papa.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Hydroponic systems work by saturating the roots of a plant with water that has been enriched with nutrients and oxygen. This method of delivery can vary from roots permanently submerged in reservoirs of aerated nutrient solution to roots suspended in an open-air dark casing sprayed on timed intervals by misters from an aerated nutrient solution. The benefits of these delivery methods are numerous. So basically what you're talking about is rather than have roots down in dirt and having rain hit the dirt, and then they eventually get part of that water, you simply submerge them in a casing filled with nothing but water that's been enriched with what they need to live. And from there you waste no water basically. So it's a much more effective system. It becomes aquaponics when you start providing fertilizer in the water through the use of fish farms. Down there you see a large fish farming container.
So the water's never disposed?
The water is never disposed. It is constantly cycled. When you use a closed system like this, you only use 5% of the actual water you would normally use. So you do intake a little more water from outside sources to continue the water that's actually used by the plants. But all the nutrients are provided by these fish here. It's the merging of hydroponics and aquaculture. So you take a tank of ingrown fish and use their take a tank of fish and you use their waste to then their lovely waste there to then fertilize the plants. They take their nitrogen fertilizer, their nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium fertilizer from the worm manure. From there, they filter the water for the fishes, removing all the nastiness out of it and taking it as growing material. They then have the clean water to be cycled back to the fish. So your plant's growing, putting clean water in for the fish fertilize the water, it's then pumped into a reservoir, which continues the cycle. And it's pretty much a closed loop without a little extra water you're going to need eventually. Statistics. The greatest benefits of hydroponic agriculture is it can produce in excess of 100 times the crops per acre as traditional agriculture. That's a USDA statistic. The benefits start to truly add up when you start counting the hours of labor for a single acre of tomato. It can be as high as 200 hours. There's no tilling, no weeding, no spraying, and no watering, and now even harvesting machines are becoming more commonplace. So in these more advanced methods, you no longer have to waste all that time, effort, money, pesticides, annoying things like that. On a 1 acre greenhouse of hydroponic tomatoes, you can produce 1.2 million pounds of fruit. That's a USDA statistic again. To put that into perspective, the large number of family-owned urban farms that make up the South Central Farming Group produced 300,000 pounds of produce in 2009. The ecological benefits, quite numerous. Now, in the event of water, there's the fact that aerated nutrient solution being pumped in hydroponic systems uses only 5% of the water of traditional agriculture. Aerated nutrient solution is kept in reservoirs and pumped in watertight housings, preventing 99% of damage to the water table caused by traditional methods. So when you hear people talking about tainted wells, poisoned water tables, terrible things like that where the water becomes undrinkable, fish start floating in rivers, that's no longer an issue here because instead of spraying your fields with all these pesticides and all these fertilizers that then 40 to 60% of run off into the water, it's all just kept in this housing. So I suppose you'll eventually have some industrial errors where, casing cracks or something, but in general, about 99% less pollution. Hydroponic agriculture that is properly maintained requires the use of little to no pesticides. Besides the fact that most pests burrow into the dirt to lay their eggs and need the dirt as part of their ecosystem, you also have the fact that it's an indoor greenhouse, also helping to protect. Soil-wise, the benefits are amazing. The hydroponics do not affect the biology of the soil, thus preventing damage to the ecosystem. Hydroponics do not require soil at all, and there's no tilling involved, which again is a damaging erosion-based technique. Hydroponic systems can be stacked in 100-story tall buildings, preserving huge amounts of land. So for every massive farm you think about some guy driving around in a tractor, instead there could be a skyscraper right in the middle of a city, providing everyone with fresh produce. Now, these vertical farming hydroponics, the very tall buildings I'm describing, they have even more benefits when you do it in that particular manner. You need less fertilizer, of course, and fertilizers are petroleum-based. We don't have very much of that left. Foods grown vertically, locally, do not need to travel 1,500 miles on an 18-wheeler. That's the average distance food travels in America, saving yet again more fossil fuels and greenhouse gas emissions. Tractors consume huge amounts of fossil fuels, as do other heavy farm equipment. These systems are all electric powered. And all told, agriculture accounts for 20% of fossil fuel use in the world. So by improving our methods there, we can instantly make a reduction on greenhouse gases in addition to what we can do for water and soil. Vertical farm designs. It's become all the rage in architecture to get into the vertical farm design. It's grandiose, it's amazing. This was designed by some students at, I believe, Cornell, and it's designed to support 100,000 people worth of food production. The dark areas are indoors and are powered by internal lights, powered by those wind turbines atop. And the other cutting areas are glass walls where you get natural sunlight in for big trees and things like that, where the artificial lights don't quite work right. This is a design in Paris for a geodesic greenhouse. I thought that was kind of interesting. Pyramids have been designed. My favorite, the 130 tall, 150,000 person producing food factory. It's fully automated and amazing. So these things are already designed. They already exist. We just have to start getting to them. It is a reality in motion, however. The Disney Corporation, of all people, has teamed up with the USDA, and they have an attraction at Epcot called Living with the Land, where they show just the incredible potentials. This is their fish farm that I showed you earlier, where the water cycles from. This is one of their eggplant trees, where they use this amazing method to produce plants that grow dozens and dozens of times larger than they normally would. This is their wall of salad greens for all their restaurants. Every restaurant in Disney is getting its greens and its fish from the Living with the Land exhibit. These lettuce heads here grow in 18 days from seed to finish. The method is one of the most beneficial for them. Tomatoes and lettuce benefit most. Disney's tomato tree. Disney's tomato tree entered the Guinness Book of World Records by yielding 32,000 tomatoes at a total weight of 1,151 pounds in 1 year.
Wow.
That's our skyscraper. We need those.
One question, the soil used there in that tree?
No, that's actually not soil. It's an expanded clay aggregate, which basically means they take, like the clay soil we have down here, caliche, and you make it into little balls, and they run it through an oven, cooking it into little sterile, I guess you call them little sterile pucks. I had them on an earlier slide. I'll go back. And they're just these little.
Just for some
Yeah, and it's just to support the weight of the roots. As you saw on the last slide, that tree had to be supported. Here again, you see the supports because the weight of the fruit is so immense it would just crush the plant. These are. Excuse me.
And in the pot, there's the fish right there. In the pot?
No, the fish are off in a separate tank, and their water is pumped to the plants and then back to them. That way they don't damage the root systems. And most of these things require support. These are 9-pound lemons, so there you have a couple 100 pounds having to be supported by that girder. But these are not genetically modified plants. The tomato tree is of Chinese origin. It's an old Chinese heirloom. And so these are all taking natural plants and then just growing them to the extreme. The future of mechanization is going to make this truly amazing. People will not water, people will not grow. You won't need many farmers. You'll need a couple guys in lab coats to run everything. This is a circular design where the fish are actually down there at the bottom because lettuce don't have deep roots. And the lettuce just run around in a circle. Each of these little arms here sprays mist on them to keep them at optimal conditions. And then somewhere along the line, a technician simply says, these are done, and removes the tray. Here you have another design. These are from Popular Science. And these have, again, a circular design where the arm rotates around, watering everything, then having a picking arm attached to loop the fruits of your labor. You have tomatoes, fruit trees, looks like beans and sorghum, corn, and again, watering arm with a picking arm, so you can have one arm that's fully capable of picking multiple types of fruit. The mechanization has become incredibly advanced, beyond what I ever dreamed of when I first started looking into this. That's a robot picker there, hand-picking strawberries without bruising them. Quite amazing. And here we have our robotic chef in Japan, preparing to cook without human aid. He will cook the entire meal without human help. So not only will they grow the food, they'll prepare it. In closing,
How would the robot cook with love?
that is true. That is true. He may need your help on that one. I want to say in conclusion, thank you and good luck on behalf of myself and all of your future robotic friends. Help create the future. Any questions? Let me put it back
make a comment real quick. I just started research on hydroponics, and I found this website. And as I was talking to you yesterday, Frank, right, it's fairly easy. It's not a complicated.
Oh, it's incredibly easy.
I mean, these machines that make it look, but all you need is one of the websites. You just need a tub, and you need your little bucket of water where you're going to keep the water and the whatever.
Yeah.
No, fish. Just hydroponic.
Yeah,
Do
one of
hydroponic.
the most basic
That's
methods.
how they grow the popular marijuana, what they call hydro. They grow it in.
Is that what they call it?
They call it
Somebody was
hydro.
asking me about that, and I didn't know.
Because it's hydroponic marijuana, and they grow it in closets.
Yeah, it's one of the methodologies that NASA actually invented originally. They had to figure out a way to grow excess food while they were on long-term space missions. So they have space wheat, which is tended to by their astronauts. That one is actually done without any medium because there's no gravity, so you don't need support. But when you need support, these little balls are the ones I was talking about. They're completely sterile, so they're reused. It's a recyclable material. Once the plant is harvested, you simply wash them down with a biodegradable soap, and they're good to go again. And biodegradable soap is also actually a fertilizer, so yeah, it's a circle. But yeah, the methods are incredibly simple. Like you were saying, they have, there's multiple different methodologies. You have deep water culture, flood trays, all sorts of things. But the most simple, you basically have what would amount to a bucket with a top, with a plant sitting in a smaller cup filled with these, and then a little pump at the bottom, and that's it. And then you just walk away,